All right. I guess we'll go ahead before we start doing too much. I guess I'll give an intro. We don't normally do that. It's normally just starts off with a conversation. But hey, guys, welcome to another video. Today, this is a podcast, Linux Land podcast. Welcome. We are joined, as usual, by Jeff, Low Spec Linux Laptop. How you doing, Jeff?
Doing all right. Better this week.
Absolutely.
I was glad we skipped last week.
That is awesome, because I definitely totally forgot Tuesday was Tuesday. And then we're joined by, if I don't burp like an absolute ape, Scraft. How you doing, man?
Absolutely great.
Epic.
We've been calling for like really long, but still doing great.
Yeah.
Still going strong.
We've been talking for me, just so context for people, it is 2:00 in the afternoon for me. And this call started with TFL and Scraft at about 8:30 this morning. So we've been chatting for a long time. We've been in the call for a long time. But speaking of TFL, how you doing, man? And it's a pleasure to have you on the Discord server. How are you doing?
Pleasure to be here. I'm really tired, and from just time zones and the fact that we've been talking for hours upon hours upon hours. But I'm fine.
We got Jeff's webcam. That's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. And you're frozen. Oh, there it goes. Discord has been just, by the way, Jeff, I guess I should go ahead and say this. During this call, Jeff, I don't want to equate you to Discord. Discord has been shitting the bed, like audio wise and video today. So we'll see how it comes out.
All right.
But for those of you who don't know how this podcast normally runs, it's normally just me and Jeff, and we talk about what it's been like in the past week in Linux and what we're interested in. So I guess I'll kick it off with, how's your week in Linux been, man?
Last week I was sick, so there was nothing going on.
Oh no. Like, was it just a cold or something like that?
I'd say I had the flu.
Oh, okay.
Like Monday and Tuesday, I was just really tired. And then like Wednesday, I was like, what the hell is going on? I should have caught up with my sleep by now. And then a fever hit.
Ooh, rough. Mm-hmm. Like, I've got to be honest. The flu is nothing to joke about, especially when you don't have unlimited amounts of water, where you can, like, if you get really bad, like a really bad spell of the flu, like, dude, you got to keep yourself hydrated, man. It is. Yeah. Oh, it's rough. But, so you've had a good week in Linux. Is there anything interesting that you want to talk about? Like what you've been doing in Linux or anything like that?
I put a couple more things on the old Pentium. I'm thinking about you inspired me to try a 360 stream with the thing. Mm-hmm. I know at 540 it didn't go. I tried that before.
I've never tried 540.
Frames. It was just dropping frames all over the place at 540, but with RetroArch on it, and most of those arcade games are that low resolution anyway, I might be able to stream 360p with the thing.
And here's the thing about 360p. Literally, I went back up to 1080p, and people are upset. Like, I've had literal, like, not just one person. I've had multiple people reach out and be like, "Can you go back to 360p? Like, please."
Well, if you're on a phone with not good phone service, the 1080p doesn't work so good on them.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot more buffering and stuff. Yeah. So it makes more sense. But yeah, I exactly. And that's what I don't really get all that much, but I will say it's just really funny and really enjoyable to hear people be like, okay, look, 1080p, too much, man. 360p is where it's at. I know so many people who 720p and they're like, Grody, you can't upload in 1080? Come on.
I can see 720 looks fine on a laptop monitor. That, you know, they're not that big. And
even on my ultra wide, it looks fine. 720 is okay.
I think even on my 20-inch, yeah, 1080p looks better, but not that much.
Yeah.
If you get these big screens, it makes a difference. But
yeah, but even if we, like, on the big screen, like, I mean, if we're being completely honest, it doesn't really, especially for content like mine, where, like, I'm not going to be showing you, like, in-depth thing. Like, you don't need to see pixel perfect text. No, the most is being able to read that whiteboard.
We don't need to see every pore on our noses.
Exactly.
It's like, who wants to see that?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
So, Scraft, how's your week been in Linux? Anything new? Anything going on there?
Well, I've been trying to rebuild my dot files from basically scratch, and some stuff that I've already had and I thought was pretty well configured. And in order to do that, I thought, why not do it on a system that doesn't have any dot files on it? So I tried installing Arco Linux inside VirtualBox, because I know out of experience, if I try to use QEMU in DWM, it tries to shit the bed if you don't have root permissions. But VirtualBox then just runs fine. So I've installed Arco, and I've pretty much been working on getting my dot files, figuring out how to manage nested Git repositories and all of that stuff.
Which that's going to be a pain. But I will say, so you're like trying to go back through and like recreate your dot files, or, you know, start from scratch, change them up maybe a little bit, but you're just recreating all your dot files, right?
Yeah. And
Gotcha.
for two reasons mainly. The first reason is I'm not entirely happy with how everything is configured right now. And the second reason is I want to have something that can easily track what has been updated, what hasn't been updated, and automatically install and update my dot files on any of my other systems, or if I reinstall something on that system.
It's a worthwhile endeavor, man. Worthwhile. It'll save, it might cost you some time now, but it'll save tons of time down the road. That's what it's all about.
Oh, yes, I know. Oh, yes, I know.
All right. So, TFL, what have you been doing in Linux this week?
Not a hell of a lot. I worked on AutoExec a bit recently. It has had some issues that I've kind of let be for a while, and it was time I did something about it. So really happy with the changes. Beyond that, I'm not really anything. I'm just using the system as normal. I'm just happy just to be on my regular setup, although I do kind of miss EOS 5.1, not 6.
Oh, okay, we're gonna have to address that comment. Just in case anyone who is listening to this is not familiar with Terminalforlife or his channel is all terminal based, and I did a challenge where we all sort of gave elementary OS a try. Mine was a little bit interesting. Everyone else was able to just install the stable release and have a good time. Mm-hmm. My hardware did not like the stable release. But you tried it out and you actually liked it. And that is something that I find incredible. And you're going to have to elaborate a little bit here. Why did you appreciate elementary OS and why do you miss it?
I think really I just tried. I actually put effort into not just like using it as an operating system, but actually trying to understand the mindset of the average Linux user. Because I think that's going to be the biggest hurdle for people like us who use something like elementary OS, because of obviously, you know, one of the first things people like us are going to notice is, oh, this is really restrictive. But, you know, when you try to get into that mindset, or as I put it, to reconnect with the average Linux user, you start to appreciate different things, such as the simplicity, or as I used to call it, the restrictiveness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do completely agree with you. I wish I could say the same, brother.
I mean, that was always pretty nice. I had no screen tearing. I mean, some of the apps that comes with the OS was kind of a bit questionable, but the rest all just worked. So I was quite happy with it. Epic.
Well, I do have to say, even though you're going into it with the mindset of a new Linux user, which again, just so anyone doesn't misunderstand my perspective on it, I think elementary OS is a great distribution for new Linux users.
5.1.
Oh, yeah.
Not 6.
Yeah. Not 6. Which, by the way, most new Linux users, when they go to elementary OS's website, it's going to download the 6 release. just in case there's an Elementary OS developer watching this, the changes that you have made with the Software Center are abysmal for new Linux users. You are, quite frankly, stupid to think that a new Linux user is going to know to go to flathub.com, download a Flatpak, install it, and then magically all of the software appear in the Software Center. That is an egregious assumption for any new Linux user. Come on. But yeah, Elementary OS 5 is good. It just surprises me to say that or for you to say that you liked it, just because I know of how hardcore you are on the terminal and everything. And inside of Elementary OS, even though there obviously is a terminal, it's Linux, it's not the focal point of the OS at all.
And I try to adhere to that. I try to actually avoid the terminal. I went out of my way to go and use the App Center, which is usually something I would probably prefer to, sorry, you're eating, but vomit than actually use an App Center. But I don't know. It was something pleasant about it. Maybe it was just because it was pretty. I don't know.
And to anyone who doesn't know what Elementary OS is, just Google it, bro. It's a great looking OS. It really is. They take the design aesthetic that Apple strives for and take it into the open source space. Fantastic. Like, their design aesthetic is beautiful. I don't think there's many
environment is based on GNOME.
Well,
it's called Pantheon, just in case anyone.
Yes, and I will say this much: I know people think GNOME is restrictive. Pantheon, much more so, and
new level.
A whole new level. And I will say this much.
Next level.
Yeah, I will say this much about Pantheon: the desktop environment it doesn't resemble GNOME whatsoever. So if you're not a GNOME fan and you're not even going to look at Elementary OS because it's based off of GNOME, I highly recommend you at least look at. I'm not saying install it and play with it, but at least go to their website and look, because Pantheon does not resemble GNOME one effing bit. It is definitely their own design scheme, design paradigm going on there. Actually, this is a good question, because I know, Jeff, you run, or at least typically run Ubuntu. So have you ever tried out Elementary OS?
I haven't tried that one out, I don't think.
Well, I've got to be honest. I don't recommend it, only because of the new version. The new version, Elementary OS, like, what takes me off about the new version is Elementary OS was a fantastic distribution to recommend to newcomers, because the desktop environment has a very particular focus on design, so it looks good. And in Elementary OS 5, you had essentially the Software Center that was really catering, or they call it the App Center, but the App Center is really catering to new users. It looks, their design aesthetic inside of the App Center is it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, but they can't understand that switching over to Flatpaks is not a good idea on the new distro. It's awful. Like, it's just awful. Like, I like Flatpaks, but you can't have a Software Center with essentially nothing available in it until you install a Flatpak. That is just brain dead.
It seemed like they also were kind of totally confused about their audience. Like, who are they targeting here? I mean, yay, the sandboxing, cool, that's great, but the average Linux user doesn't give a monkeys about that stuff.
Yeah,
they just want to open a software and get their software.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's like they don't understand their core audience, because the core audience for them doesn't even know what a container is. Like, if we're being completely real, most people who use Elementary OS don't know what a container is, and also don't understand the benefits of having containerized programs. So, I mean, I get that it's better.
Or care.
Or care. And the point is not that it's better or it's worse. It's the fact that, like, I'm totally okay with you switching over to Flatpaks. I don't have a problem with Flatpaks. The problem is that you don't understand. You completely degraded the user experience by switching over to Flatpaks. But I mean, if we're going to be completely honest, Elementary OS 6 was delayed a whole bunch. COVID did not do great things for the development there. And they were, I feel like Elementary OS 6, what really kneecapped it is the fact that they had already pushed it off for so long. And with COVID and everything, they felt like they were never going to get that next release. So they had to go ahead and do it. And they pushed it out prematurely. Does anyone here disagree with that sort of perception of what happened?
I kind of do.
Okay. So what do you think is going on?
Like, I feel like, yeah, yes, COVID happened and all that kind of stuff. But at some point, someone came up with the idea to use Flatpaks, basically, to do that whole thing, just to completely, as I put it in my video, butcher the packaging thing and go for focus entirely on Flatpaks. Someone made that decision. COVID didn't make that decision. They did.
Good point.
Sorry if I'm being harsh, but it's just kind of how I feel.
And I mean, I don't think you're wrong. I'm sorry, Scraft. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
So what I think is that they were working on the operating system, and right before COVID hit, or during COVID, someone had the idea late in development to say, hey, what if we use the same thing that GNOME does and make our software center Flatpak only?
Yeah. I mean,
that kind of dangerous afterthought.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. Like, I think it's one of those things where they were like, okay, so Flatpaks are better for security and people will appreciate the better security. But they didn't, I guess, take into account the fact that you made the actual user experience just way more, because like that, when I view Elementary OS, I am never viewing it from my perspective, ever. Because I wouldn't choose Elementary OS, period. Like, yes, I just wouldn't. But from the perspective of someone new to Linux, it is a fantastic distro. It looks good. They put a lot of effort into the style, the design, and they've put a lot of, before Elementary OS 6, they put a lot of effort into making the App Center this beautiful filled out environment where you can find amazing programs, and they make it essentially really easy for you to remember to donate to these programs because they have the little price tag there and then the drop down where you can get it for, just for free, entering your own price. I think that is brilliant. That's great. That sort of incentivizes the new Linux users to understand, like, hey, if you really like a piece of software, again, you can get it for free, but if you really like it, it's probably a good bet that you should donate a little bit to them, like to help them fund the development. I think that's fantastic. I think it's beautiful. It's just when I go into Elementary OS with that mindset, Elementary OS 6 crumbles. Like it completely breaks down because the main thing is software availability. For a new Linux user, that's king, and a lot of people were telling me, like, and I know you got this too, TFL, but they had a lot of people were like, well, you could just install stuff from the terminal. You can't expect that from a new Linux user. Like, you can't.
I got so many of those comments that drove me crazy.
I know, like that's like for us here in this call, like, yes, you just load up the terminal, install a program, but for a brand new newbie, first time entering in, it's ridiculous. You can't assume that. Like,
right?
Yeah,
exactly.
It's just nuts.
You might as well just say, just go download the source code, compile it yourself, make sure you've got all the packages that you need to be able to compile it. And go ahead and compile it, open the terminal, obviously the terminal, and go enter all these commands and compile it yourself, build different packages for it. Why not? Yeah, sure, you can't. You might as well just use that.
And
here's the thing. Sounds like Gentoo with extras.
I was just say, if you're gonna do that, you might as well just use Gentoo.
Yeah, like, exactly. And the funny part is those people, I guess, don't take into consideration that, like, my grandmother uses Linux. If I installed Pop! OS on her computer for her and then forgot to, install whatever piece of software that she needed and it wasn't in the software center, if she calls me up and I'm like, all right, look, you need to open up a terminal, she's going to open it up and immediately be like, oh God, I'm about to hack the NSA. And then past that, tell her, all right, you need to do sudo apt-get install, and then immediately she's gonna be like, can you put Windows back on my computer? Like, that doesn't, for a new Linux user, having to go into the terminal right off the bat to do something basic as installing, just for an example, my grandmother has to use Zoom for her Bible study meets. So, like me trying to explain to her that you need to install Zoom on her computer is ridiculous. Like, or zoom through the terminal. She's going to be like, I can't, if this is how I have to go about installing packages, I can't do this. Like, I can't install software this way. At least,
well, not only that, if she did get to the point where she had to enter, if you did get her to the point where she had to enter her password, then the next thing would be, I'm typing my password in, but nothing's happening.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even think. Yes.
So many of those comments.
Yes. Yeah, it's an echo character.
Oh my god.
Because
Dude.
you don't get the cute little asterisks, you just get the flashing cursor like nothing's happening.
Dude, that's brilliant.
That even dates back to the teletype days.
Like, I didn't even think about that. That's so brilliant. I didn't even think about that. Yes, she would. She would be like, there's nothing happening. And she would never be able to enter the correct password because she'd always be assuming that she'd entered in some magical letters or something. Like, yeah, like, that's so true. I didn't even think about that.
And you don't even get feedback.
That's why they actually made it.
Well, you don't get any feedback that a key is pressed, like if you were to use a teletype, which that system was designed for, you'd at least hear something or know via any other means that a key is pressed, even though it doesn't put it on the paper.
Mm-hmm. God, Jeff, I got to give it to you, man. That was a great freaking point. I am so glad you brought that up, man. That is so true.
They did actually change the functionality in recent Ubuntu, I think, or maybe it was just a Linux Mint, but some distributions, because of this issue, have actually decided to make it so that sudo, when you enter your password, will show those globs or asterisks, whatever.
Yeah, globs is much better.
I thought it was just a configuration you could change, but who does that?
Well, exactly. And telling my grandmother that she needs to edit the config file for apps, she's gonna be like, "What language did you just speak to me?" Like,
not only that, but people actually purposefully don't set that because it can actually give people who are looking the idea of how many characters their password is.
Yep. Well, there's how many characters it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's a password that is securing people from completely annihilating your system, that is really important that they can't do something like, oh, it's 2 characters, I can start guessing.
Now, I will say this, just to give a smart-ass response back to that, unless you're DT. Because in that case, everyone knows your password is DT for everything that you use.
Strong and complicated, though, in this case. I know it's strong and complicated. It's just 2 characters.
I absolutely loved, I love DT's like VM's passwords because all of them are my strong and complicated password. It's a 2-letter thing that anyone could guess within seconds. Yeah. Now, I will say one thing. So without telling me exactly how many characters your password is, give me how many characters it's over. It's guaranteed over 8, guaranteed over so much. I'll start off with my password just to give you an idea of how secure. Now, this is my user password, not my root password, but my user password is above 2 characters. That's all I'll say. I won't go on with that.
Damn.
How secure?
Yep.
Mine's almost 30, if I remember correctly. I went over the top a little, but there you go.
Wait, like, we're not talking about your root password. We're talking about your user password, right?
Yeah, your regular password. Yeah, it's around almost 30. I can't remember because I have to type it out. But
I have questions. I have many questions. Okay, so your password is 30 plus fucking characters. How do you run your update commands or anything like that on a reasonable basis?
You seen my videos? It's a lot of fucking typing.
True.
That's why you hear, like, I saw someone comment just like something I said, and then they were like aggressively typing. I mean, like, it's a lot of typing. But, you know, I got used to it. So I don't care if somebody sees how the length of my password. It doesn't really matter because they're not going to guess all those bloody characters.
No one's going to spend the time to figure out your 30 characters.
Word. Yeah, and nobody got no time for that.
Yeah,
people got things to do.
The funny thing though is when it comes to having an extremely long password, what really cracks me up is how many people have really long passwords. And I mean, you can go into like password databases where they've, stolen passwords, and these are real people's passwords that they're actually using. The amount of people who like want a long password, but they use 4 fucking words, like 4 plain words as it like the funniest password to me.
Makes that easy.
The funniest password I've ever seen is "the world is bad."
Wow, that password is bad.
Exactly, it's so bad. But
my dad was recently telling me he uses a complicated password, and I was like, "Oh, what is it?" And he basically just told me it was a couple of words. I was like, "Well, I fucking hack you easily."
Dude, the best thing is when my grandmother told me her password to her bank, and I was like, "We're changing that now. We are changing that now. It is not even a question of whether or not we're changing it."
Oh yeah.
You go ahead. Sorry.
So I have like this policy that any password for anything that's facing the internet, either I use public key authentication, which is pretty much passwordless, but I have like a backup password that still runs checks, or it's over 4,000 character.
No, I thought my password was long. I can't imagine sitting there typing 4,000 characters.
I love Jeff.
Not that you're doing that, but still.
I love Jeff's face. He's like, no, that's a no bueno.
It's just basic security. It's just, you gotta be secure online,
If you're Rain Man.
It's basic security. Like, I would love explaining that to my grandmother. Like, your password's not 4,000 characters long. It's basic security. What are you doing?
Well, I'm just gonna say, the only reason it's not longer than 4,096 is because the database doesn't allow for it. I literally can't create passwords of 8,000 characters in length. Come on, it needs to be bigger than you're allowed to send as a Discord attachment.
I assume you're not actually typing these characters out one by one using a keyboard and somehow remembering these like Rain Man.
No. I'm actually using a local password thing. I'm using KeePass.exe to manage all of that. With the database encryption set to strongest.
Of course.
I just store them on a USB thing, which I probably shouldn't do, but that's what I've been doing.
I mean, we won't talk about the fact that I literally had my private internet access VPN username and password in plain text, like an absolute dipshit. We won't talk about that.
Your best moment that you totally didn't have.
And definitely never shared it live on stream. That never happened.
Yep.
Like, I literally didn't even know I had it in plain text until I showed it on a freaking live stream. Like, what are you doing, man? But yeah. Zoomer, I saw you pop in here. How's it going, man? How's it going?
It's going well. The restaurant was closed, so that sucks.
Wait, you said Michelin was closed?
The restaurant that I was going to go to. My mates.
Restaurant. Gotcha.
Yeah, there was a bunch of police tape and like shit around it, so I don't know what's actually happening out there. But
oh boy,
yeah, that's no good.
I think they were probably selling alcohol or something, so they went and closed it or whatever.
That's got to be the most shittiest way to get your restaurant closed. We were just selling alcohol, like.
Yeah, no, at the moment with our whole lockdown thing, you can only sell alcohol. I think on a Wednesday, a Thursday, or Friday, or something like that. Like there's certain days that you're not allowed to sell alcohol on, and your business will get closed down. Yeah, no, it's super stupid.
That's so weird. I mean, I will say one thing.
I mean, it only attacks you on certain days.
Pretty much, yeah. And we have a curfew at the moment. I think it's either 10 or 11. I'm not really too sure. But whatever it is, I mean, no one really like actually cares about it that much, to be honest with you.
I mean, that's pretty much how the curfew was out here.
But you know what's pretty based about my country is you can have your password as 123 as long as you don't have a login manager. Just log into TTY, and they'll have no clue what to do with it after that. So that's about it.
I will say one thing, just because I know you popped in after we had already started this, but just so you know, you are on the podcast right now. We are recording the podcast. So welcome. So yeah, I hope that's a good surprise. But so when it comes to passwords and password security, I want to go one by one. We'll start with Jeff. Okay. What was the dumbest password that you ever actually used? Like actually used the dumbest password you ever used. And if you still use it, decline to answer.
It was a long time ago, and they kept making me, whatever service it was, they kept making me change my password, and I finally made my password, fuck this shit.
Now that's a password.
That's amazing. Now, my dumbest password that I ever actually used was big boobs with a Z. I used it only because
you were young, or was that yesterday?
Oh no, I was young. I was about 12, thought it was hilarious. So, Zoomer, what was your dumbest password you ever actually used?
I used the name of my cat until I opened up a bank account, and I got a message on my phone the one day that someone was able to guess it, and yeah, then I just changed everything. But I used this one password for literally everything. So yeah,
I just literally face palmed.
So, Scraft, you?
Well, I literally just used first name, last name, which, I mean, nobody's gonna know because I never share that shit.
No.
But, like, there's no way that anyone could link that, but I've long abandoned it. So we're
Google
safe.
knows all.
Oh yeah, Mr.
I didn't
Mr.
even-
4,000 characters isn't using that anymore. That's for damn sure. Now, I will say one thing. Your first name, last name not being able to be linked to you, for like now while you were using this password, were you the one paying for internet?
I was not the one paying for internet.
Okay, well then you're good now.
I think 12, 13 or something, so...
Yeah, you're fine
I
there.
didn't know a shit about cybersecurity.
Yeah.
The only people who ever knew that password was Microsoft with their keylogger.
We got to keep talking about Microsoft and their keylogger. You can't not talk about it, okay? Like, there are so many, there are still, all right, we just on a slight tangent here, and then we'll get to TFL's worst password.
I don't even have to write a keylogger to hack this thing. Microsoft already did it to me. I just got to read theirs.
Exactly. You get a keyboard logger built in. Like, I do want to go ahead and address this because just in case you're watching this and you're completely new to Linux, whatever, I do want to go ahead and stress this to you. No one is bullshitting around when Windows and by proxy, Microsoft's the one who makes Windows, just in case you live under a rock. Microsoft truly believes that you are dumb enough to believe that a keyboard logger is a feature. Okay? Just so we're clear on how Microsoft
I forgot
feels
my
about you.
password the other day.
Well, hey, Microsoft can help you out there, okay? They've got it on file, all right? Hey, if you log in, if you do any online banking from Windows, Microsoft knows your bank login information. And here's a little bit of comfort. They only hold it for up to 90 days. Possibly. That's with an asterisk of whether or not they need to delete shit. Then they might remove it.
My passwords, sure.
Yeah, your 4,000 character password. I don't think Microsoft's like.
We should all do that and just overload their servers if everyone did that.
Well, see, here's the thing. I don't think that would even work because if you do the math on just how wide Microsoft's market share is,
right.
Imagine they have keyboard loggers running on almost every system out there, and so they're getting massive amounts of information at their databases, including everything that a Windows user types. That's nuts to me. That's also probably why AI is getting so freaking smart.
Just start piping def u random to it. No problems.
The most true statement that I've ever heard is that we are living in Stalin's wet dream. Like, that is so true. If Stalin woke up in today's world where he's like, dude, he would feel like such a dipshit. He'd be like, are you kidding me? Like, all I had to do was make my spy devices fun to use and people would love them. Like, that's it. Like, damn it. He'd feel so stupid. But off of that main, like, side tangent, TFL, what was your dumbest password you ever used?
You're going to be disappointed. Not nearly as exciting as all you guys. It was basically just 1122. And also, when I was a kid, password. Everyone has to have a password at some point or another. Mm-hmm. So those are my dumbass passwords when I was a little kid.
Yeah, 122 is not exciting.
I actually had the internet.
Oh, well, in that case, it doesn't even fucking matter. Like, who are you going to get infected by?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't get the internet until much later. I was actually in my 20s before I had my own internet connection. And that's kind of a stretch saying that, because I actually used mobile. I could spend £40, don't know what the hell that is for US, maybe 50, 60 or something, a year and get internet. But that was like 500 megabyte limit a month, which is horrendous, obviously. But anyway, cheap internet. That's when I very first had my internet connection. So I just thought I'd share that little bit for you.
Dude, being 24 right now, I would be very upsetty spaghetti if I just now got internet. I really like internet, man. I really like the internet.
Our hella spaghetti.
You just look back on your childhood and you're like, damn.
I remember dreaming about, like, I wanted the internet so badly, I actually dreamt about it at times. Because everyone had the internet, everyone. And I was totally missing out on that stuff. I can't tell you how happy I was when I finally actually had a proper internet connection on my own. Especially when I moved out and like the whole thing was my own. And yeah, that was awesome. Mm-hmm. Good times.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to be...
It's not fun having 500 megabyte a month. Seriously, I'm telling you, that is not fun.
Yeah, no. And see, here's the thing. Like, I know people now who are working off of hotspots, and like, because of my mom's work, she works remote and she's a manager for a billing company. And so she has a lot of employees that, when their internet goes out, they use their hotspot for a little bit. She has one employee that uses the hotspot all the time. And like, she has to do video calls on Zoom and such. And so on Verizon and just about every carrier out there, past like 22, 30 gigs at the most, they're going to throttle your speeds down to like kilobytes a second. And there was one day she was in a Zoom call and she wasn't sharing her webcam, and for like manager type calls, for essentially like just business reasons, they require you to have a webcam. She is exempt from having to do that for a while until she can get her own internet where she's at, because if she turns on the webcam, it is going at about 1 frame every minute. She's been throttled so low. Even anything above audio is pretty much out of her grasp. She can't really her hotspot can't handle it. Because I mean, like, let's be honest, 22 gigs, that can last you a while, but as soon as you have to do one video call, if the video call lasts 20 minutes, there's more than half your data gone just in a second. So, well, not a second, 20 minutes, but whatever.
Boy, you youngins just don't know the pain. Like, I remember around like 99, 2000, you get you got your phone, you get 56K modem over the phone lines, and you're gonna download your update for Half-Life, and it's not that big, but it takes 4 hours.
Ouch.
I remember when I was very small, like I think I was probably like 5 or 6. I remember, so where we lived was a really small town. It was pretty rural. And so we still had dial-up, and we still had the, I remember like there was, I don't think we had, I'm like 99% sure we didn't have internet, but the phone line where you like where it was shared, where you would like pick up a phone and like I remember vividly at this age, I picked up the phone and I was going to call, or I thought I was getting a phone call, but it had been my mom's cell phone. I picked up the landline and I just stuck it next to my ear, and I'm hearing my neighbor from down the street talk to like her like medical like clinic, and I'm like, I shouldn't be hearing this. Set it down. And I just remember like 30 minutes later, she came by to drop something off for my grandmother. And she was like, do you know if anybody was listening into my call? I heard someone shut the phone down. Everyone just looks at me and I'm like, I didn't mean to. I wasn't spying. I didn't mean to. I just picked up the phone. Like that stuff was... People don't understand how craptastic phones apparently used to be. Like, spying on someone else's conversation used to be not just commonplace, but even accidental. You didn't even mean to. You're just listening in on other people's conversations. Because the way it worked was for, like, at that time was, I'm pretty sure everyone on our main road, which was like 5 miles long, so I mean multiple families, I mean we're talking like 15 to 20 families, all were on the same line, so anyone who picked it up could hear your conversation. I just like privacy has completely changed compared to back then, like which I think is a good thing. I think it's great that people actually care about privacy nowadays. I think it's great that people take it seriously. It's sad to see just how much privacy has become this thing of like where it's not as blatant when you're being spied on, even though if you're aware, it is very apparent just how much you're being spied on. But it's very easy now to just be like, no one's really spying on me, because there are plenty of people who know Google's collecting all of their information, but truly believe that Google has their best interest at heart, which I find endlessly hilarious. Google has your best interest at heart? Hell no, man. They got money in their heart, man. That's it. If they could exploit you, which they do, to make money, they do it in a heartbeat, and they do it in a heartbeat. Like, I don't know. Would you guys have any further comment on privacy and security getting better nowadays compared to, 1990s, late 90s?
Well, what I think is that we've just got a lot more options available in terms of protecting ourselves. Linux being one of the bigger ones, mainly because when Microsoft starts pulling that shit, we can just get out of there. We have the option to. We don't have to like buy some expensive alternative thing that might also be spying on us, but they pretend they care about privacy, which they really don't, Apple.
Yeah. Well, see, here's my defense when it comes to Apple compared to Microsoft, when it comes specifically down to security. Microsoft has a track record of not giving a goddamn care in the world as to what you think about them. They just don't. If you think Microsoft is a despicable, deplorable company, they're fine with it. That's all good with them. Apple cares about PR. They care about at least people thinking. They really care about your security. So they do stuff, and let's be real. If you've used a Mac at all, it is much, much, much harder to install malware on a Mac than it is a Windows PC by a long shot. However, even though Apple is better in that regard, it's still not perfect. They still collect way too much information that they really don't need. And also, when you think about it, Apple's business model does not benefit from them collecting information on you. It really doesn't. They're not in the business of selling your data. So the only real reason they collect so much of it is to try and make, using an Apple machine hyper convenient, which,
the thing that Apple does is, instead of collecting the information themselves like Microsoft or Google does, they're actually saying to other services like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, etc., that they have to do it. Apple themselves abstains from it unless you live in China, which in that case, you might really want to look into that.
Well, let's be completely honest. As far as I know, in China, even running Linux can get you put on a watch list because they assume you're doing something nefarious, because you don't want the government spying on you. Because in China, like, the government is perfect. You shouldn't have any problems with them. Why would you go anywhere else? Like, so, I mean, when it comes to specifically China, when it comes to security, yeah. To be honest, if you're a corporation and you want to get into that market, you're gonna have to rub boots with, the powers that be. You're just gonna have to. You're gonna have to knock some boots, get along, and be complicit in them absolutely disrespecting their citizens. By the way, China, please don't kill me.
Well, here's the thing. The only country that is like that, but still, like, appreciates Linux, is North Korea with, like, Red Star OS, which is actually based on Fedora. And, like, Red Star is pretty okay once you remove all of the spyware.
Well, that's what I was just about to say.
You're basically running Fedora.
Exactly. Like, you're running the North Korean branded Fedora. Just like the great thing to me about Red Star Linux that I find endlessly amazing is, do any of you know exactly why Red Star exists? Like, the sole purpose of it existing, other than it being a government spy tool. Okay. All right. So let me just go ahead and break it down for you. Windows XP. That's why. That's literally why their entire shit was running on Windows XP. But apparently at some point they realized, oh yeah, this thing phoned homes to America a whole bunch. So everything we do on it, Microsoft knows. So they built Red Star just so they didn't have to deal with XP. Otherwise, the North Korean government would still be using XP through and through all the way.
Well, the thing about Red Star, and again Fedora mainly, is Fedora is based on Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which is a really good distribution for running servers on. And like, you have other distributions based on it, like CentOS, which got killed off, but Rocky, for example. If you have like a server, I have experience running CentOS servers. Those servers don't die.
Mm-hmm. CentOS is fantastic. It really is. The mind-blowing thing, I'm glad you brought up CentOS. Have any of you ever tried to run it as a desktop distribution?
I gave that a go, but I didn't have any luck with it.
Yeah.
I can't remember why.
I
guess I never will be able to now.
Well, yeah, that's for damn sure. But I find it really interesting, the people out there who run CentOS as their like desktop drive. Like I wouldn't see CentOS being something that or CentOS, however you want to say it, as being a great desktop user experience.
Here's the thing. I've actually used CentOS 6 back when that was relevant. And like, it was like, I was like on a school, everything had to be budget. And basically, what they did is they used a whole bunch of old computers that just could not run Windows. So what they did is they put CentOS on it, and they were really good machines. Like, in that case, CentOS as desktop is a really good operating system. If you're like on a school and just a machine that shouldn't be going down anytime soon. For what reason?
I do agree there. It's just, now correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, again, I don't know that much about CentOS, so again, please do correct me if I'm wrong. But as far as I know, CentOS, whatever, I'm going to call it CentOS from here on out. CentOS has a pretty lacking diversity in software availability. Is that true?
Well, it by default, yes, but they have like a whole bunch of extra repositories which you can enable, which is mainly Apple. Extra packages for Enterprise Linux, which is a whole bunch of extra stuff that they don't put in the core repositories for one reason or another. They also have like, you have other things like RPM Fusion, which also add a whole bunch of packages. And if you're running Fedora, RPM Fusion is also amazing.
Yeah, Definitely agree there. If you're going to be using Fedora, RPM Fusion, worth your time looking into. It just is. When it comes to CentOS and the I don't know, the availability of software out of the gate, it's just so actually what I was going to say is, so like when it comes to the software availability, adding those repositories and having a system that does, have decent software availability, is it the case that they don't package a lot of those repositories in by default? Is it sort of the same reason why OpenBSD doesn't provide drivers for like Wi-Fi devices and stuff? Just BS on the driver side, licensing wise?
It's not licensing wise. It's more regarding to the fact that a lot of the stuff in the core repositories is really well tested. It's software that you will need if you're running a server, but like the things in Apple are things you need a lot less commonly, and thus you're not going to be using as often.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, when it comes to weird Linux distros or other operating systems, I do want to go in here. Have any of you tried OpenBSD? Jeff, you go first.
Nope.
All right. Zoomer, you tried it?
Yeah, I tried it, but I don't know. That thing just doesn't install nicely on my machine. I think there's something wrong with. I've got a pretty new laptop, and I think I've got a lot of proprietary blobs that are it's just not compatible.
Do you have an NVIDIA card?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's the main issue. OpenBSD cannot handle an NVIDIA card because OpenBSD is even more hardcore than Linus Torvalds. They don't just say F you to NVIDIA. They're like, we're not building in support for that dog shit. If they can't be nice to us, we're not going to be nice to them. So yeah, when it comes to OpenBSD, a lot of the times it's mainly a hardware issue. TFL, what about you?
If I remember correctly, I tried it in a virtual machine a couple of times over the years, but it wasn't really for me. It was interesting, but it wasn't really for me. I haven't tried it in a long time, though. I certainly didn't give it as much of a go as you did.
Yeah, highly recommended. It's very interesting. And if you want a system that is focused solely on security, that's where it's at.
I do find that intriguing, but I don't know. I don't know. It seems like more hassle than I'm willing to deal with.
I won't disagree there. It's not really a hassle or a pain to get installed at all. The install process is straightforward as shit. Like Arch could learn something from OpenBSD's installer. And then also OpenBSD is one of those things where like interacting with the system, if you enjoy working inside of a terminal, it is gorgeous. The documentation, amazing. Using different programs, they make sense. They're intuitive. The main sort of issue with OpenBSD is if you want to do stuff like what we're doing here, running Discord, creating videos and stuff, you can still do it in OpenBSD, but it's not going to be as simple as straightforward as just popping up OpenBSD and installing Discord. It's going to be a little bit more time consuming.
I would just use the web client. So I don't mind with that. It's the lack of OBS would screw me over. Probably no simple screen recorder, so that would probably screw me over. I'm guessing no Redshift, that would screw me over. There's so many things that I just can't. I just don't think I'm trying to be nice, but
yeah. Well, actually, I do think you can get as far as I know, Redshift is available, or at the very least, I know there is alternatives for OpenBSD. You would be really surprised. Like I have been, every time I looked at OpenBSD, the amount of ports and software available for OpenBSD is very surprising. There's quite a bit of software.
Maybe I'll give it a go.
I will say this.
Had that much success with it.
Yeah, I will say this. If you want to record and everything on OpenBSD, because you love scripting and everything, using FFmpeg and AuCat to record audio and video separately and then stitch them together. And again, Kdenlive is available for OpenBSD, so you can just run Kdenlive to edit your videos. But it's really freaking nice because you could whip up a super simple script that you just run and it records your screen, audio, and then for me, another necessary part was loading up the webcam. But for you. I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about that.
yeah. Scraft, do you have any experience with OpenBSD whatsoever?
I haven't really tried it. It's been on my radar for quite a while, but I don't really have hardware compatible with it. Like, the only thing I know it's gonna work on, or like I'm pretty sure it's gonna work on, is a Raspberry Pi, which I haven't even... Like, it's somewhere. I don't know where exactly. It's just somewhere, and I'm gonna have to dig it up if I want to try it.
That's my same issue with my Raspberry Pi. I know I've got one around here. I know it's in here somewhere. I have no freaking clue where it is, though.
That's the real big issue with the Raspberry Pi. It's small enough to actually lose. But, like, I might actually... I'm looking forward to trying it, maybe if I get a Pi 4 or something. Something more capable, something I could use as a desktop.
I was actually about to go in that, because if you are going to try it out on a Raspberry Pi, I'd recommend the 4, because again, it's a security first distro, not performance first. I did do the video about top 5 things to do after you install OpenBSD, and part of that is changing some settings to allow the performance to be much better. Let it take up your resources, because out of the gate, OpenBSD restricts it quite heavily to not using up all of the available resources on the system.
Well,
don't know why.
I don't really use that much resources on something like a Pi, because I'm not going to be gaming on it. The most I'm going to be doing in it is like opening up links or maybe some Gopher sites, or it's mainly not going to be really graphically intensive. The most heavy thing that's probably gonna be running is DWM, but it's 2,000 lines of C. It's not heavy.
Yeah, Raspberry Pi can handle DWM easy.
Oh yes, I know. Yeah. I know.
Yeah,
I would put like a really bloated DWM on like a Pi 3, and it handled it like a champ.
Mm-hmm. I have a Pi 3B Plus, and it handles DWM and I can't remember what terminal emulator I was using at the time, but it handled it just fine. I really like it. Jeff, do you have a Raspberry Pi?
I don't, but I do want to get one and build an arcade cabinet.
Because
it's plenty powerful. It's plenty powerful for like that MAME stuff, and even like the at least up to Super NES.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how to do with like N64 or Dreamcast, but it's certainly good enough for like the old arcade games and the old consoles.
I will go ahead and say...
I know that a 3B... Well, I know a Pi 3B Plus will definitely handle anything before a Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
So as long as you're not doing 64 emulation, you're just fine.
And
64 emulation is going to be really slow and depending on the game.
I'm just thinking more actual arcade controls in an arcade cabinet.
Yeah, now, that would be really nice.
For anyone watching this, I do want to go ahead and specify on a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, in my own experience, I can tell you, N64 games, you can emulate them on there, but there is a large portion of the N64 library that will not work, because there are a lot of the games that are just the Pi 3B Plus. It's just not quite there yet in performance. The 4, I assume, can handle N64 no problem. I would be surprised if it had trouble doing any N64 games. Now, I don't know about consoles newer than that, but I will say that. So besides Raspberry Pi and their fantastic developments here recently, I do want to go ahead and say, so we've talked about the Stream Deck before, but I do want to go ahead and say, have any of you guys... I do want to go ahead and ask, have you guys been reserving your copies or your products?
If I thought I can't afford it, but I would reserve one if I could.
Well, I'm just gonna wait until like they've got at least some batches out and maybe the price is dropping down, because I'm suspecting prices at launch will be a lot higher than what they're eventually gonna settle down into, and I might pick one up later, maybe for like even more portable than what I currently have, and maybe playing some games and compiling Gen 2.
I think that's a great bet. What about you, Zoomer? You got yourself your hands on a reservation for a Steam Deck?
No, honestly, I don't think I'm gonna buy one. All the gaming I do is on my laptops, and I can just take that anywhere as well. So, I mean, there really isn't a point, and it's really expensive to ship to my country as well. So, it's really not worth it.
I understand that one, dude. Shipping and import taxes, not cheap.
Yeah, it's so expensive. And also, if I was going to get one, I'd wait till like maybe a newer generation, or I'll wait till it's a little bit tested out before I spend money and encounter a ton of issues.
UTFL, you getting yourself one? Yeah?
Sorry, I just rushed to the computer because I'm in the middle of making tea. I thought I would risk it.
Sorry.
Being a Brit, okay. You should have seen me. Like, I've got a spoon in one hand and I'm just legging it. Anyway, I probably won't buy one. I guess I needn't have rushed to the computer to tell you that basically, no, I'm probably not going to buy one. But I'm going to keep an eye on it because it is kind of interesting. And obviously it has an effect on the Linux community and the growth of Linux. So I'm definitely keenly interested, but it's not something I'm thinking of buying. At least not yet.
I was not expecting to be the only one here that reserved it. And see, I do have a gaming laptop. I don't necessarily need one. The reason I'm interested in it is because, well, I mean, yes, it would be more portable than a laptop, but I mean, my laptop's got a keyboard on it, and I'd like to use my keyboard. But mainly for me, it's the power draw for the damn thing. Like, I can carry that around, have a full PC that draws fucking 15 watts, bro. That's incredible. Right. That's incredible. I can plug that shit up to a 26,000 milliamp hour battery pack, and that thing will run for days. Like, dude, that is epic. That's why I really want one.
Oh yeah, and the best part about the Steam Deck is, well, the charger is USB-C, so I'm suspecting they're gonna be compatible with any USB chargers you probably have lying around. So if you have a Nintendo Switch or maybe a laptop charger that is USB-C, it's probably going to be able to handle up to 20 volts just fine, because that's the USB-C specification. And still, like, it's going to charge fine lower than that. I've charged a Nintendo Switch multiple times at 5 volts, worked just fine. Just took a little longer.
Yep, and they've already said, I mean, it's just plain old USB, USB-C, so you'll be able to use it with any of the chargers that you want. And the docking is, there's not going to be any special vendor lockout for their proprietary as shit dock. You just, if you want to plug in a USB-C adapter, get HDMI out, all that stuff, good to go.
That is them caring about the user.
Exactly.
More of that.
Yes, and that's why
I caring about the user experience.
That's why I get all over people who are like, Valve is going to do something horrible with this device. Like, stop trying to speak shit into existence, okay? They're the one fucking company out here who actually knows how to do shit right. Like, they don't even lock you into Steam. They even say on their fucking main page for the device, if you don't want to use Steam, it's compatible with any other game launcher. You want Epic? Go for it. That's awesome. Yeah. Even on their main page, they tell you it can run any OS. So if you're that dude who I'm not about Linux, I'm just going to install Windows on it, you can. Anything you want to do with the damn device, it's up to you. Like, you do anything you want. Valve just hopes, because the device is fucking awesome, you'll probably buy some games through Steam, and that's where they're going to get their majority kickback. Because if you think about it, the base tier model for what this device is, $399, they are definitely taking a loss on it. Definitely taking a fat L on the manufacturing process and price of making it at that price. Their profit margin is you buying games on Steam. That's where they'll make their profit.
That'd be the one I would want. Is the little, and then if I could hack a SSD into it or whatever's in there, with M2 or whatever's in there, I can't remember. But there's something. M2. If I could hack one in later, fine. If I can't, fine.
I mean, even if you get the base model one, like, as far as I know, it's not user upgradable. It's not built to be completely just disassembled, but you can. Obviously, it's a normal fucking piece of hardware. You can.
To repair.
Yep. So you can take it apart, and then even in the base model, even though the M.2 SSD, oh shit, if I'm dropping shit, you're fine. You're fine. You can just slap another one in, and you don't even have to do it. If you're fine with the eMMC storage, which, let's be honest, it's booting into Linux, it's still going to boot fine. You're fine. You got the micro SD card slot, and let's be completely real. You can buy a 512 gigabyte SSD or micro SD card for like $80. So you can get for $160, essentially for $460, you can have a console with an extra terabyte of storage space that you can slap any of your games on there, and you take it everywhere. Like, it's already comes with a case. So, I mean, tossing 2 little micro SD cards in the bottom of the case is not a problem. Like, yeah, it might be a little bit of a hassle because you need to switch between game libraries, but when you plug it in, it's automatically going to mount, and Steam, as long as you've set it up to, which if you've got games installed on it, it's already going to be recognized by Steam as a library of games. So it's automatically going to import. So the user experience is great either way. Boot times are not, load times are not going to be amazing off of micro SD card. Like, let's be real, GTA 5 off of micro SD card. Yeah, you're going to be waiting at some loading screens. Let's be real. But you're playing GTA 5 on a handheld console. It's pretty fucking epic. Like,
it sounds pretty insane, actually, don't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm definitely going to be doing if I get the Steam Deck is I have some really good gems in my Steam library, like Scrap Mechanic. It's absolutely amazing. Mm-hmm. And if I get a Steam Deck, I'm definitely going to be playing that on the go. Like, Scrap Mechanic is such an amazing game to just sit back, relax. And I know, like, I haven't really played since the survival update about a year ago, but from what I've seen, it's really good.
Mm-hmm. And see, here's my thing that absolutely blows my mind. I will be able to take around and play the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake. I'll be able to play Resident Evil 4 on the go. Like, I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, and I'm going to be able to play some fantastic games that really you can't just emulate on a Raspberry Pi. Like, you're not going to emulate these games on a Raspberry. Like, yeah, you could probably emulate the original Resident Evil, but maybe Resident Evil 2. But like, still, you're not going to be able to emulate Resident Evil 4.
You could probably get away with the Dreamcast version. I think they were on Dreamcast.
Yeah, they were. So, like, yeah, you could get away with that on a Raspberry Pi, but like, you're not going to be able to play Resident Evil 4 on a Raspberry Pi or any type of small handheld console, because like, a lot of people are like, there's nothing revolutionary about this. Like, there have been many handheld gaming PCs before. Yeah, but them dog shit pieces of crap used Intel HD graphics. Like, you're not gaming at any reasonable FPS, even at 720 on one of those pieces of crap. Like, you're just not. You can still game, but you're going to be, playing at 360p, which, according to the people who watch my channel, 360p all the way, it's the best. But, I don't know. I'd prefer to play my game at a little bit higher resolution, but hey, to each their own.
I think I was the only one who was actually disappointed with you streaming in the 360, 20, whatever it was. I think I was the only one that actually cared, because I was like, "This what?"
You were the only person that stated that, like, when you came in, it's not just like, oh, 360p, like, because most people were like, "Are you streaming in just 360p?" And then the immediate comment after that was like, I prefer this. This is great to do this all the time. You were the first person who came in and was like, immediately, like, you're streaming in 360p? Like, can I get something higher? Like, I started streaming in 720p and Peter popped in and he's like, can you not? Like, where's the 360p?
It didn't help that YouTube defaulted to 160p, which was absolutely atrocious, or as you would say, egregious. Your word of the week, I guess. And so defaulted to 160. You actually have to, or I have to, on my phone, select advanced and then choose specifically the 360, and then it looks okay-ish. But I was on the phone.
And then the next video, the phone, and knock it back down again. It makes you constantly pump it up if you actually. If you're just listening, fine. But if you actually want to look at something.
I think it's funny that. No, go ahead.
That's something that the standard YouTube app just likes to do. It's another reason I've just abandoned the YouTube app for phone. Like, one of the best things you can do to your phone right now is go ahead and go, like, install NewPipe. NewPipe, it's an amazing third-party YouTube player. It'll work out of the box. It'll give you all of the YouTube features, plus all of the YouTube music and YouTube Premium features. It's open source, you're not paying anything, and it is an absolute amazing thing. It even has a complete OLED dark theme.
Oh.
Can you spell it out? 'Cause I'm looking it up now.
NewPipe.
But I
It's
need,
literally NewPipe, the two words smashed together into one.
as in NEWPIE.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking in case there was a confusion with an accent.
Yeah, and because of stuff like New Shell, you can never know if it's NEW or just NW NU. Sorry to cut you off, Joe.
I can't find it. I don't think it's actually on Android. Is it on Android?
I'm pretty sure you're going to have to go to F-Droid. I don't think it's on the Google Play Store.
Yeah, I installed it from F-Droid, which is basically where I get half of my apps, because the phone I'm using is like Android 5. Truly amazing, except half of the apps don't work.
I was about to say, that's so out of date, the Play Store probably shits itself when you load it up.
Well, if you're like looking for apps that don't work on Android 5, the Play Store just doesn't list them. It doesn't even say not compatible, it just doesn't list them at all.
Oh gosh, that's the best. That's the best when you just have to rely on a third-party apps. Like, see, here's the thing, F-Droid's fantastic, but it's just funny that if you're running an outdated Android system that, like, let's be real, a lot of phones you just can't even freaking update, and there's not custom ROMs for them that you can get up to date. So you're just stuck. Like, F-Droid is your only option. Well, again, I don't want to say stuck like you're suffering with F-Droid. F-Droid's fantastic, but still, like, it's pretty much your only choice, which is just funny because it's like, Google, don't you care about your products? But let's be real. Yeah, they don't. They'll cancel them in a heartbeat. They don't give two shits.
Here's the thing. The software on F-Droid is like 10 times better than the official version. Because, for example, I like to scroll through my Reddit feeds a lot. One of the things that doesn't work is the official Reddit app, so I found like a third-party app, Infinity on F-Droid. It has all of the features that I need. It doesn't shit itself if you scroll down too far, and it's basically the Reddit app, but 5 times better. So what I've started doing is I've started relying less and less on the Google Play Store, and I've actually started using F-Droid as my first option.
Again, F-Droid's not bad. It's a great app center. I absolutely need to run to the bathroom real quick. So, I have no idea what a good topic would be for y'all to discuss, but y'all decide and y'all talk about something interesting real quick. I'll be right back. I absolutely have to go.
Well, I've got something to share. I'm actually going to be learning to drive, which is weird to say when you're 35 years old, but there you go. I mean, I'm in England, so I can get away with it. So I'm actually trying to shit myself, but I'm also really excited.
Oh, damn. I'm learning to drive at the moment.
Cool.
Yeah, the only thing that I know about
I've been watching a lot of YouTube stuff.
Well, the only thing that I know about driving is Mario Kart.
Oh no!
And I'm 18.
Something tells me
I'm legally old enough to take driving tests.
Don't use that experience on the street.
Yeah. Fun for you and not so fun for the people you mow over. Or mow down.
Well, I watched Initial D, so I think I should be fine.
Oh boy.
Wait,
Yeah,
so why do you
remember like the highway code?
Why do you want to start learning to drive now?
The point now where I've realized that it's held me back all these years not knowing how to drive. Like, there's so many things I want to do, places I want to go, and like something tells me Jeff would be kind of I don't know, feel me, if you like, on this one. But I kind of want to just get my car and drive off to middle of nowhere with a backpack and some water and food or whatever, and just explore, just be out with nature, get away from all this crap. I'd have to go pretty bloody far to get that because I'm just like in England. It's not like I'm in Scotland, which I wish I were, but there's bound to be somewhere where I just trees, fields, and I can just be at peace because I really like the countryside, but I don't see too much of it here. So I'm kind of looking forward to that, just driving out to places and getting away from things. Plus, silly shit, like I could go to shops wherever, like downtown, without having to worry about taking a bus or some crap like that. And also the fact that I wouldn't have to deal with buses, because they're a pain in the ass.
Well, buses really depends on what city you're in, because from what I found, the worst the worst public transport service you can possibly have is Antwerp, Belgium. If you ever go to Antwerp and you take the bus or tram, do not look at the timetable. The timetable is completely irrelevant. You just go
That's
ahead,
like over
you
here.
go stand on one of those stalls, and you just wait for your bus to come. There is nothing you can do about it. The bus will be late.
Just
You
wing
will
it and
not
hope
know
for the
when it
best.
arrives. You just wait.
I'll bet Greyhound in America is worse. Oh my God, the Greyhound bus service. Holy cow, it sucks.
Oh, believe me. Because when you do get a bus, and you can hope for God your bus hasn't been cancelled, or you need to wait an additional 2 hours, which they don't inform you about. If you do get on the bus, it's either really fucking cramped, like you're fighting for space, or the bus is like, the bus is so unhygienic that you don't even want to touch anything.
Damn, that's pretty crazy. I mean, in my city, we don't even have public transport, so if you don't get a license, you're just gonna be walking everywhere, or using a bicycle or something like that.
I've been to cities like Berlin and stuff. Like, Berlin has amazing public transport. Like, you can just, for cheap, get one of those day tickets, and then from there, you just go ahead, take a tram, you take a bus, or basically anything, and you're, free to go with that day ticket to go wherever you want in Berlin, and it is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. They built this huge. They use this. They built this huge train system in my city, but a lot of people just started stealing cables or whatever on the actual train tracks, and now we don't even have public transport. So I mean, I don't really know.
Wait, hold on. What type of dystopian world or country do you live in where people steal public transit cables?
Man, I'm telling you, this is a problem.
People steal copper all over the place.
It's not just the copper. They literally steal the actual metal on the tracks, and then they sell it as scrap metal. This is an actual thing that happens. It's not even a joke.
What the fuck? Dude, that's insane.
I have to admit, yours is worse.
Wow,
dude, it's so bad. It's horrific. Yeah,
that's
just
awful.
Straight up, the steel is straight up steel. Not even heavy electrical cables or something. Holy shit!
They stole the steel.
The company that builds all the trains, they're a government organization or company or whatever, and our government declared a national emergency because trains that were carrying cargo couldn't go across the country because there were just tracks missing, so they would just end up being grounded. It's an actual problem. This is an actual thing.
Yeah, and then your cargo's stuck and can't get to.
I mean,
hopefully it's not groceries or something.
Yeah,
literally, it's so messed up, dude. That's yeah.
I don't even want to joke about it, but that is some real, let's be completely honest here. That is some real degenerate behavior. When you are.
That is how it is in here. That's how it is here. It's actually really bad. We have an energy crisis as well. So they built nuclear power plants. We have 2.
Oh,
but they just haven't maintained them at all. So we had to close them all. And yeah, they had to close them all down, and like now we don't have like power for like all the time in the day. But I mean, that's just like,
if there's anything to maintain, it's a nuclear power plant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Precisely my point. Precisely my point. But I don't know. That's just one of those things, you know.
Yeah, like God dang, man. Like,
South Africa.
I thought I recognized the accent.
Yeah, no, it's a really beautiful country. I would recommend, but I just don't take the train if you do come here, because
I can imagine.
Yeah, no.
I actually had a buddy in high school that was from there.
Yeah, if you ever want to travel, come to South Africa. It's a very beautiful country. It's like really, really cool.
Yeah.
But like, just, you know, let's just like, you know, just the public transport and all the services and everything doesn't really work.
Yeah, I will say that because like he showed me some pictures of his home, like his hometown in South Africa, and dude, it's gorgeous, man. It's a gorgeous place.
Do you know what town he lived in?
I don't. To be quite honest, if I'm remembering correctly, it's something that if I tried to pronounce, I'd be hyper offensive. It was something that as far as I know, it was a pretty long name, and I couldn't pronounce it.
Like, was it like Johannesburg or something like that?
Oh, no. I can say Johannesburg, but it started with a K. I can't remember what it was. K.
Kloofendal, Krugersdorp, I don't know.
That one.
There's quite a lot.
That second one. Yeah, that one.
Oh, yeah, no. No, it's a really beautiful country, and I mean, we have like probably like the biggest cities in Africa, you could say. Like, it's probably the most like I don't know. It's just a really beautiful country.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, nothing really works. But you know, whatever.
That's it. That's a whole separate conversation. Totally different. It's a beautiful place.
No. Just beautiful place. Nothing works. That's what you need to know.
People steal and have just broken the public transit, which is
it's actually like. It's a little bit sad to think about, but like the main public transport now that we have, it's like, you know, like I'm pretty sure you guys have like taxis, but like they buy like these old Toyotas that have like 8 seats in the back, and there's probably like 3 or 4 million of those, and that's like our entire public transport. It's all like just privatized on the way.
Okay.
So like, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. See, like here in America, our public transit is horrible, not because we have people stealing from the public transit, degrading it. It's really just because our public transit is so garbage and it's not because of systemic problems or anything like that. Our public transit's just garbage because we have no one who can plan out like public transit. That's the real problem. Like in some areas, some very hyper niche areas, there's perfect public transit. It's amazing. And then in complete, like out here if I drove into Nashville in Tennessee, the public transit there is an absolute joke. Like we have buses that go, but they're unreliable. Dude, I've seen so many the Nashville like public bus system. I think it's called WeGo or something like that. Dude, the amount of times I've had to drive by a bus that's just completely broken down. I drove by one where the engine set on fire as I passed it. Like,
no, the real problem with our public transport is like we had like really good infrastructure, you know, but it's just like the maintaining of it. Like a lot of like it's just not really being maintained. So
no.
I mean, yeah, but like at one of our train stations, it's near. I'm trying to think where it is. It's near Sanson. But like a few people were killed there, and like every couple of months, like people are just killed at like train stations waiting for trains. So
that's
like public transport is quite dangerous as well to just go on, especially if you're by yourself or something like that.
That's pretty much the same here too. Public transit, like there's a good chance that you're gonna get into a fist fight or a knife fight with somebody on a bus. Like there's a good chance it'll happen.
Or a gunfight.
Well, I mean, if we're going to be completely honest, here in America, the way it normally works is if you get into a gunfight, unless you're in a gang, it's not really a gunfight. It's just a straight up homicide. That's what it is. But
now I feel privileged with my buses, which are slightly off time, and trains, which at worst you have a wee argument with somebody back. Jeez, I feel right privileged now.
Slightly off time is an understatement here.
Oh,
We
dude.
barely even know if we get a bus or not at like the time they're supposed to arrive, but like it's shifted probably an hour or two back.
So like where I worked, so I used to work in Nashville for a company where I was delivering linen. So like delivering sheets and stuff like that to hospitals and hotels, stuff like that. And it was, so every morning when I would go to work, either right when I got there or when I was on my first delivery route, because the way it worked while I was there is a family run business. They were really nice and very, they were very okay with me, like as long as I wasn't like 45 minutes behind on my route because I stopped to get McDonald's, you know, like it was fine for me to stop somewhere and pick up food or something like that. And so normally on the way into work, I would stop at the Shell, like that was right next, the gas station, just right next to my work. So I'd pull in there, I maybe fill up my car and get me like something to eat or something like that, and then go on to work. Or when I was leaving for my first delivery route, just swing by on in there, grab some snack or something like that. The funniest thing happened one morning. I go in there, I pull in to get something before work, and the lights are on and everything, but I go up, the door's locked, and clearly no one's been in there. And this is a 24-hour gas station, so it's like never really closed. So I was like, oh, that's weird, whatever. Went to work, and then I was like, I'll just swing by there again. I swung by for my first delivery route, no one there. It's still locked. I'm like, that's fucking weird, but okay. I go on, do my first route, and then on my second route that I leave out on, I swing by there again because at this point, I'm like, I really want, like, you know, just a Gatorade, something like that to get me through the day so I can get to my lunch and be fine. I swung in there, and the manager is inside. It's finally open. I go in there, and I'm like, "Hey, man, I just wanted to ask, like, did someone get sick? Like, are y'all okay? Like, what happened this morning?" And he goes, "Well, the lady who was working the night shift, she had to be home for her kids. She has to take them in the morning, so she had to leave." And so she locked down the store for him to get there. And so it was going to be closed for about an hour until he could get there. He uses public transit. His bus was 2.5 hours late. And when it did show up, the bus driver, according to him, was on something, and he described it as a definitely meth. He was like, whatever that lady was on, she was grinding her teeth, having a fantastic, excited morning. And he was like, dude, it was a rough morning getting here. I'm like, dude, damn, man, like, it sucks. But like, I don't know, like when it comes to public transit and stuff, I mean, quite frankly, if it's not run by open source software, I'm not using it, man. I'm just not, I'm better than that. that one clip will get taken and used against me 100%. And I hope so, because that was totally sarcastic. Somebody won't get that. Somebody will be like, wow, really? You're that prudish? Like, the one thing that I will say when it comes to a lot of diehard FOSS software people, which this is definitely a tangent, but it might be interesting for some people. When it comes to a lot of diehard free software, like the GPL is my wife. I sleep with the GPL. I worship at the GPL's feet. Like those kinds of people really cracks me up because they don't see ever a right for proprietary software to exist, which I don't know. Do you guys believe that there is never a purpose for proprietary software?
No.
Is that like, do you mean no, there's never a good reason for it?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Basically, I think proprietary has its place. I'm not that hardcore, not crazy, like, I don't know, not that hardcore about FOSS. So you don't suck the toes of the GPL. Of FOSS, but precisely. There is a place for proprietary software, I think. But,
And I would agree with you there. Now, Scraft, your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, the perfect world would not have proprietary software. Everything would be free and open. But because businesses are a thing, proprietary software will always exist. But that doesn't mean, and like this is a big problem with like FOSS projects, people are like, oh, but how are we gonna make money? Well, there are a couple of ways to make money. First of all, if you're gonna have like something that relies on servers, what you could do is like, you could open up the server software and make people able to host their own servers, and everything is nice and open source. But what you could do is you could provide your own service for people to host their servers, maybe something cheap over AWS or something, I don't know, but like have it so that people can host their own servers and have it like at a certain price tag for every month or so. It's a way to make money, but it still is open source. Or you could take a look at like, you could make it open source, but like the official app or something is like published on the Play Store for a small fee. And one of the best demonstrations of this is a really nice messaging app called Threema. It's like $5 on the Play Store, and it's like, it's Discord kind of, but also not. And it's really privacy respecting, but like if you want to use Threema, you need to use the app, which...
Okay. Well, see, and I do agree with you there. In a perfect world, there wouldn't be proprietary software, but we all know we don't live in that perfect world. We all wish we did, but we don't. But I do also agree when it comes to FOSS projects, if you want to make money, provide a service and charge that way. That's the best way to do it. Jeff, your opinion?
Your video is frozen, Tyler.
Oh, really? Whoops.
I could see like a point in proprietary software for certain cases, but the way I don't like the direction it's going. Like you used to be able to get the actual CD, and now it's all digital downloads, and now they're even trying to take that away from you and make everything be on the cloud.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And but the question was, do you think there's a place for proprietary software?
Yeah, I think there's a place for it.
Yeah.
Like, let's use a game for an example. I don't see no point in game engines themselves being proprietary, and people keep reinventing the wheel for the same mechanics over and over again. But like if it's a Star Wars games, there's copyrights and owners of the IPs and stuff there are parts of that would be proprietary.
Yeah, and I will make the argument, and I am happy for this to turn into a debate. Okay, happy for that. All right, I feel like this is a type of topic that definitely gets under discussed. But when it comes to proprietary stuff, especially when it comes to games, like they're having the argument that there's no case for proprietary anything in the world, it sort of takes for granted the fact that like if your games are like the best example of software that it makes sense to have proprietary, because anyone can come and rip off right. And I think games make the best example of this, because like, if you're making a YouTube DL script and someone rips it off, like cool, they ripped off 30 minutes of your work. That really, it isn't, I mean, anyone can do a game. That whole concept, the amount of time that goes into making a game is ridiculous.
You could argue that with some software though. Like some of the more complicated pieces of software out there that really do some pretty groundbreaking things. You could possibly argue the same thing.
Well, and that's really what I'm saying. Like, what I mean is games are the best example of this type of software, because they just implicitly. I mean, almost any game out there. Like maybe you can make a case that Asteroids or Pong doesn't really count, but games take a lot of time, a lot of effort to make, and also to make right, to make good, and
money.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's a solid case for proprietary stuff. Like, I know you can make the case against Discord, should be open source, but if we're being completely honest, Discord is doing stuff different than a lot of other places. I'm not saying it's better in a lot of cases it can be worse than a lot of other places, but if we're being completely honest, they are doing stuff their own way. There is a good case to make for why it's proprietary. I don't think Discord is doing something groundbreaking that there's no excuse for it to be proprietary. There's still a reason for it. They want to make money. Yeah.
What about drivers? Where do you guys stand on having proprietary drivers versus FOSS drivers?
I am glad you brought that up.
Close to your hardware.
I am really glad you brought that up, because that is where I completely fucking differ from my last opinion. There is absolutely no, I'm going to go off here. I'm going to go off here. Okay. There's no fucking reason. There's no goddamn excuse you can give me for NVIDIA being proprietary at all.
Thank you.
At all.
Your tune changed so quickly.
There is no excuse for NVIDIA, because here is the case that I have for AMD understands the benefits of open source when it comes to drivers. They don't have to employ as many people, and there is a wide community who will put their own time and effort into improving their drivers, their products for them. It's brilliant. It's awesome. The thing about NVIDIA that pisses me off the most is NVIDIA, essentially where they stand is they are doing something so special, so awesome sauce that they can be proprietary. Hold on, can I just pull you down off your high horse, and just eat shit for a second? Are you kidding me? You're not doing anything that's special saucy. The only thing that's different about NVIDIA and AMD is they choose to make it proprietary and pay their own teams to do it. More power to you. However, do not anyone try and make the case that NVIDIA has a right to make it proprietary. The only excuse that I genuinely believe that's a solid reason for why NVIDIA's drivers are proprietary, and they should stay that way, is the fact that they are most likely using code in their drivers that they don't own, so they literally can't make it open source. That is the best case that I have ever heard for. Well, see, here's the thing. I don't think NVIDIA is doing something sketchy in their drivers. However, NVIDIA is also a company that we all know good and well does not give two flying shits what you think of them. Because guess what, baby? Most people are going to buy their graphics cards anyway. It doesn't matter how much of an absolute POS they are.
Respect that.
Which is even more ridiculous. You're buying the hardware, not the software.
Exactly. And if we're being completely honest, the case that a lot of NVIDIA enthusiasts will make is, well, you wouldn't have fantastic things like DLSS or DLSS, whatever feature, if NVIDIA wasn't proprietary and doing it themselves. Wrong. Absolute wrong. You will. Guess what? It's just like everything AMD. It takes longer to catch up to NVIDIA because they have an open source community who has to work on it. They have to get their hands on the hardware, which takes time because they got to order it. They got to have it delivered. Then you got to play with it, see if there are any issues that you got to fix inside of the kernel in the actual operating system itself. Then past that, you can start working on improving features, adding features, improving stability, all that stuff. It takes time because there's a community that has to get the product first. NVIDIA can just pump out new features faster because it's all done in-house. That's the only difference. It's the time frame of the features that you get. You'll get them in both places. It's just how long will it take?
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
So from what experience I do have, AMD drivers generally tend to be a lot more stable and a lot more bug-free and tend to work on more cards than NVIDIA drivers. Because guess what? NVIDIA drivers are slowly phasing out older cards. And it's literally at a point where the proprietary driver doesn't work with the majority of older laptops. If you have a laptop with an NVIDIA driver older than 5 years, just give up on trying the proprietary driver, try the open source one. It's gonna be a lot easier. Like, you're not spending 5 years trying to figure out how to configure Xorg to work within NVIDIA drivers. Oh yes. You're also not spending like a whole bunch of time just trying to figure out what download you need. You don't need to update everything manually. You just install the package, maybe reconfigure Xorg depending on your distribution, and things just work. Yes, you might get screen tearing, but the NVIDIA proprietary driver doesn't fix that either.
Yep. And if you're going to get screen tearing, don't complain too much. Just install PyCom. You'll be good. Okay. Compositor fixes that shit. You're fine. Okay.
Great.
And
or Compton in my case, if you're on an older system.
Yeah. And I will go ahead and say this. Fantastic. Yeah, Compton, PyCom, whatever the compositor that you're using is, they're genuinely fantastic. Exactly, same.
I mean, PyCom is basically Compton, but actually maintained.
It's a fork, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just a fork of Compton.
The thing with Compton is it works fine on my system. I'm running it because PyCom is a lot slower because of all of the extra stuff. And also, I don't need the extra stuff. Everything works fine. Things play well with drivers. This laptop is like before 2016, so it works.
Now, before I forget, I do want to go ahead and elaborate on one thing that you said there, because you were commenting on the stability and the bugless nature of AMD drivers. Because I know some absolute well-meaning, but at the same time...
Yeah, once it's a year old, the hardware.
Exactly. Drivers out of the gate for AMD are not ever going to be as good as NVIDIA. And people will talk about how shitty AMD drivers are. I'm like, look, AMD drivers are not shitty. It's just out of the gate, the drivers for NVIDIA are going to be better because they've had more time to work on them in-house. AMD has a much, much, much smaller team for I'm pretty sure
the proprietary ones or the open source ones.
The open source, and the proprietary AMD drivers, either one, they're not going to be as good as NVIDIA's out of the gate because they have a smaller. They just have a smaller. As far as I know, AMD's team for driver development is 1/3 the size of NVIDIA's. So they have a much smaller team, so they can't do as much out of the gate with their drivers. It takes time for them to mature. And that's really the main difference between AMD. It's not that the drivers are bad at all. They will get better and they will stay better and they will be maintained for far longer than your NVIDIA proprietary bullshit drivers. They just will. So just wanted to address that for anyone who wants to make the comment that AMD drivers are absolute garbage. They're not, unless you just bought a card. Then yeah, they're going to be worse than if you just bought a brand new NVIDIA card that just launched. Like, of course, the drivers out of the gate are going to be better. NVIDIA has a much larger team to work on them. But you give it 6 months, a year, better. Yeah, go for
it. Again, eventually, I'm going to have to buy a new graphics card, probably. I mean, I can't really use mine forever. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. But it would be nice to get a new one. And I have an NVIDIA card. I guess 2 questions, really. Do I go for NVIDIA again, or do I go for AMD? And why?
Okay. I will make a really solid case here. AMD. Why? Because 5 years down the line, that graphics card is going to serve you much better. The drivers for it are going to be much better than NVIDIA's. Much better. Also, your AMD card that you get, the last and final point that I'll have here is the graphics card that you buy from AMD, you're going to purchase at a price much lower than an NVIDIA card. And the performance difference between them, it's not fucking worth it to go with NVIDIA. It's just not. It's just not. Also, when it comes to AMD, what processor are you running right now?
i5 4690K.
Okay. Here's a great example of why I think AMD is the much better route to go. So you need to buy a graphics card. You want to upgrade your graphics. What graphics card do you have now?
ASUS 760 OC.
I'm sorry, what?
Or GTX 760.
Okay.
GTX 760,
okay.
But it's actually an ASUS 760 OC.
Okay, so GTX 750, or you said 760? 760. Yeah, 760.
Yep.
Versus Ryzen, the 3400G.
I would probably spend like 120 quid, maybe. I'm not a huge gamer. I don't really see the need to spend too much. I probably wouldn't even spend that much, maybe 100.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
So when it comes to getting even an older iGPU, the performance is going to drop about 72% on a RX Vega 11 in a 3400G. But the new 5000 series, their graphics cards are much better in them. You could, for about $300 to $400, get you a processor that has many more threads in it, anywhere from 8 to 16. Actually, let's just say you're going to drop.
CPU.
Oh, and I'm not saying you need to upgrade. Any i5 is fine, but like my point here would be, so like you want to upgrade your graphics card, you want to get something a little bit different. You could purchase an AMD APU and a new motherboard for about the same price, if not less, than what you're going to spend on a graphics card. And that GPU that's built into that chip will serve you perfectly fine. I know you're not a big gamer, so it's going to serve you perfectly fine. Your CPU performance will get much better. And you're using all open source drivers. You can,
awesome.
Yeah, pat yourself on the back there. And this is a system where, you know, when that AGPU for, like, let's just say you get into gaming down the line and it's just not quite cutting it, you could easily, and I mean easily, purchase another graphics card and just slot it in that bad boy, and you are just fine to go. Yeah. Like, it is, to be completely honest, AMD's offerings right now, even in the main GPU market, are really solid. You can get an RX 580 and that would serve you more than fine. Like, I know your graphic needs are not that much, so you'd be more than happy. A 580 is probably way more than you need, if we're being completely honest.
That's what I want until the price went stupid. Mm-hmm. When is it going to be easy to get a graphics card again?
I mean, that's really the main question. And even right now, the AP, like the prices that I'm talking about for the APUs are inflated as hell. So like when the APUs drop down to their reasonable price, you could buy a nice APU, upgrade your CPU. Again, I'm not saying you need to, but you could upgrade your CPU and motherboard and get something with some newer features, blah, 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 whatever, for literally close to half the price you're going to drop on an NVIDIA graphics card for a mid-tier card. A 3060 is like, what, $500? I think that's how much it's supposed to retail. I mean, not what its going price is on eBay. That's totally different. But I think it's supposed to retail for $500. So for $300 bucks.
I would avoid all the scalpers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I would need to get like some crazy high-end thing. I don't really care about that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I highly recommend, if you're thinking of upgrading your graphics card, at least take a look into the APU market. AMD and Ryzen has some fantastic offerings right now. Highly recommend it.
I'm really not wanting to, like, rebuild the machine and all that kind of stuff. I'm really not wanting to do that.
Well, I will say this. So, how old is your machine?
6 years ago, maybe. I think I built it 6 years ago.
Okay, like 6 years. In that time, have you repasted your CPU?
Nope.
Yeah.
Even I still get really good temps, so I'm not.
Oh yeah. It's not really the fact that the reason I say always repaste your, like, for me, every single year, at the very minimum inside of a year, I repaste the CPU. Even in my laptops, I'll take it apart and repaste the CPU every year, only because that is the one thing that you can do to keep yourself from ever unknowingly having severe overheating issues. And so if you're going to, no matter what, I don't care what graphics card you choose, but when you do upgrade your CPU or GPU and you have the computer open, take the extra few minutes to take off the cooler and slap some new CPU thermal paste on there. It's just
years.
Yeah, it's something you definitely want to do, because
I don't even know if I can remember how to do that.
Well, I will go ahead and tell you this. If you ever want to hop on a phone call, do Discord or something like that and show me through your camera, I can walk you through it. It's a lot more scary than it is.
It's a lever, you lift it up, it unhooks it, and something like that. I don't know. I used to be really into computer hardware. As I say, I did build this computer, and I used to Frankenstein a lot of computers when I was younger, but I lost interest. I got more interested in the software side.
Yeah, same here. Like, I also used to be in computer hardware like a little while ago. Like, I still know a bunch of stuff. It's just, I'm a lot more interested in things like Vim. Because...
Oh, hell yeah.
It is completely...
Vim,
like, you can just customize it exactly how you want. Like, it's not gonna complain.
You don't have to get your hands dirty.
Not only that, but like, you could completely mess up your Vim config, and it'll still work. If you mess something up, like, if you put the CPU in wrong and you put the lever down, you're gonna be spending a whole other... You better be prepared to spend more money.
That reminds me just like how stressed out I got. Like when I built this computer, it was a lot of money for me, at least. It was a lot of money. It was like in total I spent about $1,000 on this computer. So at the time, it was 6 years ago or something, but at the time it was a gaming rig. And I used it for that purpose for a week, or however long it was. And I got really anxious because I was like, holy crap, the CPU itself is like 200 something quid, which I actually specifically bought that CPU. 200 something pounds. That's crazy to me. Crazy. And I just like one thing, if I just did one thing wrong in that, electrostatic discharge, or whatever that thing is called, it's just like one wrong thing, and it's like, that's it, screwed, all that money to waste. So I was really anxious. I get that now with hardware. It's so expensive, and I'm just like, I don't want to screw this up in some way, even though I have the knowledge, apparently, because I've built it and it's been fine for years. Even though I have that knowledge, it still stresses me out. So, but that's one thing with the software. If it doesn't work out, restore a bloody CloneZilla backup. It's all good.
Well, another thing that I've like kind of learned is like, if you know what laptop to buy, they're really easy to service. Like, if you ever opened up a Lenovo ThinkPad, you know how easy everything is. You know how easy it is to get like new parts. Even if you're not associated with like a company, as an individual, it is still easy to get these.
Now, I will say one thing. I do have a question. So in y'all's countries, do you have Best Buy there?
Oh, no.
Okay. You, TFL?
Nope.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
Well, here, but if you're going to be buying CPU parts, anything like that, try and find a retailer near you that has a 30-day money-back guarantee or return policy, because most retailers... Yeah, well, again, most retailers don't, but if you can find one, Best Buy is out here the best one for it, because even though you're not going to get any type of deal on your processor, normally they're going to be either slightly marked up or literally just right at MSRP. But the good thing about them is you're not going to, the good, like why I purchased all of my components at Best Buy, knowing I was spending more than I could if I got it off of Amazon or wherever, is because of that 30-day money back guarantee. Because Best Buy is the one company on earth, as far as I know, that will give you a return on a literal processor. So if you bend a pin, anything like that, you're fine. And I also will say, when it comes to static discharging, I built plenty of computers on carpet. It's not recommended. I wouldn't recommend you do it, but the static, static like,
isn't really that big an issue.
Exactly. Most components, like most motherboards nowadays, if you accidentally build up some static and discharge into the motherboard, it has ways of compensating for it, so it will be fine. Most components now can handle a slight amount of static discharge. Again, I still don't recommend it, but
to go back on the whole like buying computer parts thing, the only way to get computer parts in this country, like, I don't know why, but you cannot buy it in any physical store. You can buy pre-assembled machines and everything, but if you want individual parts like processors, graphics cards, or anything, you better be prepared to hit up Amazon. There is no way to get this. Also, like, here's something else, and I'm gonna go on a bit of a tangent. Hardware here, if you want to get a keyboard, you need to make sure you look at the layout. Because this country, for some godforsaken reason, has decided to use the French AZERTY keyboard, but then change a couple of keys for no fucking reason. Like, okay. Like, first of all, one of the most annoying things is if you're typing anything aside from French, the layout is absolute garbage. It's almost QWERTY, but some keys are optimized for typing French. Also, typing French on this keyboard is not something you want to do anyways. But then, like, you have like the number row. Let me tell you this. Okay, so you're all using QWERTY, I suppose. So, on QWERTY, if you want to type in numbers, you just hit the number on the key. On AZERTY, what you need to do is you need to hold Shift and hit the key. If you have ever used DWM, you already know that this requires patching. Because by default, DWM will use those numbers. I set it to use the function keys instead because I do not want to look up those symbols. Because, okay, who wants me to list the symbols from left to right?
Go for it.
Okay, so 1 is ampersand, 2 is like E, but like it has like a bit of a thing. Like it has an E, but it goes like a little like line going from the like top middle to higher and right. Yeah, it's one of those. Then we have like the double quote for 3, single quote for 4, parentheses left for 5, then 6 is some weird ass symbol that most keyboards don't even have. Then 7 is like 2, but the accent is pointed the other way. 8 is exclamation. Then 9 is a caddie. If any of you know what a caddie is, welcome to French. But it's like a C with like a 5 underneath it. It's only used in French.
Oh yeah.
Then A
I would
is
hate
like
programming with that. Jeez.
Oh yeah, programming with this is annoying for other reasons. But like 0 is then A, but instead of like going from like low to high, it goes from high to low, like the Eon 7. And then to top it off, after 0, we have like most keyboards have 2 other keys. The first one is to close the parentheses, and the second one is a hyphen.
Wait, hold on. So your 5 key is your parentheses, and then the one next to 0 is your closing parentheses?
Yes.
Oh, that sounds horrendous.
What?
Oh, it gets worse. Because if you want to, like, you know angle brackets, right? They're used a lot in HTML, XML, and all of that stuff. Well, for some godforsaken reason, these 2 have been put on 1 key. So
I'm having a panic attack listening to this, man.
Like lesser one is like normal, and greater than is shift and then.
Like, dude, I know you can't see it, but my hands are sweating just imagining having to learn this. I'm like, oh God.
And the placement of this
Try using monkey type with that.
Okay, the placement of this key for normal QWERTY people is like, imagine where Z is, but one key to the left.
So where shift would be.
Well, it's next to shift.
So there's an extra key next to Z.
Yes.
Oh boy. The more I listen to this, I'm like, this keyboard is from hell itself.
Oh, yes. And it only gets worse. Because if we want to type, like, square brackets, we have... So you have P and two keys to the right of it. You have, like, some weird stuff. If you want to do those two keys, you have to hold down a modifier, which is found to the right of the spacebar, which for most QWERTY keyboards would be right alt, but this does not serve the features of right alt. No. And combine that key with shift, and you have like a whole bunch of extra symbols which only exist on some layouts in Linux. But now here's the worst key to ever type. Well, not the worst, there are still worse. But like backslash. So, you know like the key that types greater than and less than? Yeah, if you use like that right alt modifier key, that one serves the function of backslash. And then, to top it all off, the two worst keys to type on this keyboard, for some godforsaken reason, is like the little hats to go to the beginning of the line, or like to say the beginning of the string in regex. And then you also have like the little squirrely line to
Tilde.
like indicate your home directory. If you want to type those and have those function, you have to hit that key twice. Now for the first key, like going to the first like character on the line, that's pretty okay. But for the second key, you also have to hold the right alt modifier. Imagine how to twist your hands like.
Dude, I developed carpal tunnel in a freaking week, man.
Yeah.
Like, what the
We're
hell?
expected to type on this.
And like that's your country's like most used like default
That is
key.
the only that is the default keyboard.
Jesus Christ.
Like, just look it up on Google or something, or like the images thing. Luckily, the only saving grace for typing numbers is numpad.
All right, so
keyboards
hold on,
ship with a numeric pad.
I've gone to Google. Give me the name of that keyboard layout.
Belgian keyboard.
Belgium keyboard. All right, let's see this. Images. Okay. Whoa. This looks like... Holy effing shit. This cannot be a real... There's one key
Share the
on...
screen.
Oh my god. Okay, I'll share it. Give me just 1 second.
I'm too lazy to look it up.
Okay,
Holy
here we go.
cow.
All right,
You're
here we
just
go.
gonna get carpal tunnel looking at it.
Dude, hold
Right?
on. Control...
That's keyword. That's keywordy.
Oh. Could you zoom in a little bit?
Oh, jeez.
That's keywordy.
That
That's
is
the Dutch
nasty.
keyboard. That is the Dutch keyboard. There's
Okay.
a Belgian one.
Okay.
That is
But still,
A30.
I do just want to go ahead and point this out. There's this one godforsaken fucking key down here. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 functions on it. What the shit? Oh my god, these...
That right there is hideous.
Okay, here we go. Belgian keyboard layout.
Yeah, that's like pretty
Oh.
much it, I think.
Okay, I unplugged my mouse, and now I'm about to plug it in just so I can zoom in on this image, because apparently 2-finger scrolling here is just gonna shit the bed. But, oh, well, I turned it off. That it would help if I turned it back on. let's just zoom in on this here. God damn.
This could actually be a good challenge for like anybody wanting to develop carpal tunnel in less than 24 hours.
This is why is it set like, dude, oh my god, why? Like the most annoying thing here is for me the parentheses. Why?
Oh yeah.
Why are you too God.
I would throw that out the window very quickly.
Yeah, God.
Very hard.
Very, very hard.
And it doesn't list all of the symbols. Because like if you look right next like to the right of the space bar, you have like a key. It's labeled Alt-GR, which is basically right Alt, and it has like a whole bunch of functions for other keys. And you can combine that with Shift for some extra keys, which nobody fucking uses, but they're there anyways.
Oh my god. Like this layout is grody.
That looks insane.
Like, god dang. I mean, I really couldn't use that. Like, I mean, talk about having a tantrum. I couldn't do it. Wait, is this a Mac version of it? Yep, we got Mac here, boys.
This is the reason I don't touch type. It's the reason I can't do it.
Yeah, monkey type on this thing right here would be a real stressful endeavor. Wait, hold on.
I'm sorry for your loss.
I have a quick question. K? Oh, okay. What's the K here supposed to mean on the keyboard?
I don't know. I think that's a Mac specific thing.
Oh, okay.
But like, just so you know, I get 30 words per minute with my typing method on this keyboard.
I gotta be honest, man. I am not surprised one bit. I would be surprised if you could hit 40 words a minute on this keyboard.
Impossible.
Like, oh my god. Oh, grody.
Typing English on this keyboard, like, I get E, sure, but A, why do I have to stretch my ping up? And Q, okay, I get it. This is designed for French people. Q is used quite a lot. But why move the A? Excuse me?
Dude, although I will say one thing, I have seen worse keyboards than that. No, I don't ask me what the layout is. I couldn't remember its name, but I have seen well, I mean, there are keyboard like layouts out there that are like essentially just memes that are built to be like destroy your hands.
But this is the worst keyboard that is not a meme, pretty much. There is no way to design a keyboard worse than this. And it's designed for typing French. Now I'm gonna go ahead and drop the bomb on you. The majority of the people in this country are born in the Dutch-speaking half.
So it's not even fucking relevant.
It's not even fucking relevant for most people. Unless they type French, which... who is gonna put in the effort of learning it?
Yeah, I mean, if it's not what you already speak,
I mean,
it's
Dutch is
probably
already complicated enough as a language.
Mm-hmm. See, I've taken French. Yeah, like I learned French in high school, and French is one of those languages where, really, in all honesty, if you have some working knowledge of Spanish, French is not too difficult to learn.
Spanish, Italian, basically everything in that region. The thing is, Dutch, it comes forth from German. And it has like a whole load of quirks from German. And it has its own quirks.
Die Deutsche Sprache.
Well, it's not exactly German, but it's
close
enough.
Yeah, it's close. It's close. So we've gone off on a tangent here about keyboard layouts and languages, and just to further dive deeper into this tangent, I do want to go ahead and ask, have any of you ever like seen someone just random speaking German and been like, this sounds really lovely? Just question. Has anyone ever
Only
heard
from a woman? Yes, definitely.
Ooh.
I've only heard people shouting in German. Because that is entertainment.
Spielst du?
Dude, the best thing about
Was ist
German.
mit der los?
Dude, there's a video of this
Mach
dude.
schnell! Mach schnell!
Raus! My neighbors are gonna think I've lost it.
Dude, there's this video of a guy who's speaking German to his mother, and it sounds like he's verbally abusing her, but he's just talking about his day. It's so funny. I love it. Like, to a non-German speaker, German just sounds so pissed off. Like, it just sounds like you've had the worst day.
Lovely is not the term I would use.
No, yeah.
And then you have like...
I think it's very sexy coming from a woman, though. 'Cause they don't all like scream it and yell it in some god awful way. Like, it's become or maybe some do. I don't know, but I didn't learn German. I didn't like look at some woman just be like and be like, wow, I want to learn that language.
Well, here's the thing. On the complete opposite of the spectrum, you've got like certain accents of Dutch where it is impossible to sound offensive in. It's like, I'm gonna go ahead and fucking stab you to death. And
It's
it
very
literally
calm.
sounds like they're gonna take you out for dinner.
One of my favorite German words is Schmetterling.
Metal? What the hell does that mean?
Butterfly. It means
Butterfly.
butterfly. I don't know. I just really like it.
Butterfly.
Schmetterling.
Or like the German word for ballpoint pen. Google
I don't know that one.
Google what?
Oh,
Google Scriber. Google Scriber.
Google Scriber.
Google Schreiber.
From what I understand from
Schreiber.
it translates to bullet rider, literally. Like, imagine
Sounds
like
about right.
taking bullet and rider and putting them after each other as a single word.
Yeah,
Bullet
they love
rider.
smashing words together and then calling it a new word, and they're
Yep.
very literal
Yeah,
as well. Another one that's really nice is a light bulb. I can't remember what it is exactly. It's been a while. I know Birna. It's like Pair Global something. I don't know. Does anyone know what it is?
No.
I don't.
know.
I don't know.
Like,
I
I
can't
can
remember.
understand
I'm
some
really
German.
rusty.
I can understand some German, but like, if it were to speak and hold a conversation, nah.
I can hold a very minimal conversation. I used to be conversational much better. Glühlampe or a Glühbirne. That's what I'm thinking. Glühbirne.
Well,
Kind of sounds like
Or
the
just
Dutch
burn on
word.
its own.
well, see,
Yeah.
here's the one thing that I will say for this podcast, okay? We're going to go ahead and end it off here, and we're going to end it off with this statement right here. You learn something new every day. You came to a Linux podcast, and you learn a bit of German, all right? You've been educated.
Schmetterling.
All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and end it off here. We'll see you guys in
is
the
this
next
turning
one.
into the Is this turning into the Lewis Rossman channel? I hope you learned something today.
All right, boys. Let's sign off here. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. And if you want to check out Terminal for Life, do it. His channel link will be down in the description. Same with Jeff, Low Spec Linux Laptop. Definitely give him a subscribe because you should. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. And if you want to support me, there's the Patreon link down below. It's very much appreciated as always. And I will see you guys next time.